Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Welcome back to the MOVIEVERSE podcast show, episode 29. It's hard to believe we reviewed that many damn movies on this channel already. Time flies when you're talking nonsense. My name is the Habitual Pixel. This is my co-host, Big Nasty Productions. And if you're new around here, we review movies in a spoiler-tastic manner. Spoiler alert. And today we're doing Black Mass, the latest gangster film about the Winter Hill Irish mafia of sorts. Led by one James Whitey Bulger, and of course, you know, starring Johnny Depp looking evil as a motherfucker. Where would you like to begin on Black Mass?
Well, one thing I guess we could start, I believe it's based on the book, yeah?
Yes, it's based on the book called Black Mass, the true story of an unholy alliance between the FBI and the Irish mob. That's a mouthful. I can see why they turned it into Black Mass.
I'm pretty sure that book is written a lot, or heavily on the testimony of like Kevin Weeks and I'm assuming Stevie Fleming as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they left out that they could have included, like especially around the son dying. They don't really go around the fact that it was his neighbor that killed him
and the events that happen afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why they didn't include that, because that would have been better to kind of see how he goes from, you know, somewhat of a monster to kind of completely depraved.
But psychopath that he is at the end of this movie.
It's definitely a great gangster flick. If you like movies like The Departed or, you know, anything like that, like even like Casino, things like that, up that alley.
Gangster movies, yeah.
I don't know if it, like you said yesterday after we saw it, I don't know if it exactly is on the same level as those, but
as the greats, yeah.
But it's definitely it's highly entertaining. Definitely better than a lot of the attempts at gangster flicks that have came out in the last 10 to 15 years.
Oh, definitely. Like things like Gangster Squad, and you know, while they're not terrible films, they nothing. I don't know. There hasn't been a great gangster movie in some time. Some people argue American Gangster, but
American Gangster was good.
American Gangster is very good.
I didn't think that.
The Departed is obviously the last amazing one that I think of course, very much related to this story
that's
here.
That's the question. Considering that it's so strongly based around kind of, well, at least Jack Nicholson's character based around the idea of Whitey Bulger and what he represents, what do you think's better, the kind of this telling of Whitey Bulger's story, or did you think The Departed was better, which is obviously based on Infernal Affairs somewhat?
Yeah, The Departed comes across as a better movie. That's just because Scorsese stitches story together so well. And Black Mass, I don't think, is stitched together as well, story-wise. However, the performances in Black Mass are on par. You know, I will say nearly on par with like stuff like The Departed, because Depp and the whole main carrying cast is very, very good in this movie. I think it's just the story isn't quite as, you know, solid as the greats. You know, your Goodfellas, your Scorsese had a way of telling these massive stories in a really cohesive way, and this is trying to tell the massive, truly crazy story of Whitey Bulger, and it seems, it didn't have enough time to tell the whole story.
Well, it's definitely not as informative as something like The Departed, because like you said, there's obviously more of a story to something like that. I felt like you're right with, especially with the way that they paced Black Mass, you know, how it kind of jumps between the years.
Yeah. They tried to be more faithful to the actual story in Black Mass, which makes it, you know, a little bit more realistic, where The Departed is fictionalized, even though it's based on some of these real people.
Yeah, like you said, it's definitely different as far as that regard. I don't know if I'd say necessarily that The Departed is a better film. I'd say that it is definitely better paced and definitely better story-wise, but I do think some of the performances in this, especially from the supporting cast, far surpass what was done in The Departed. And you know I'm a huge fan of that as well, but I mean, that to me is the definitely crown jewel of Black Mass, is the caliber of acting, especially from someone like Benedict Cumberbatch, who does an absolutely amazing job. Considering the fact that he's, you know, an English actor, he
nails the Boston
absolutely
accent.
Awesome Boston accent. Even way better than Corey Stoll, in my opinion. Or Corey Stoll. Is that his name? Corey Stoll?
Corey, I think. Yeah. I would agree with that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the cast, shall we? Johnny Depp is, of course, James Whitey Bulger, the main character, and the real-life boss of the Irish mob for many, many years. And let's back it up with, Joel Edgerton, plays John Connolly, who is...
Fantastic job.
Who carries a lot of this movie, because it is about him and his FBI relationship with Whitey Bulger. And who else we have? Benedict Cumberbatch playing Billy Bulger, his brother,
Senator.
the senator, his brother who is which is a senator. So you can see how this is a kind of a crazy mob story. And like we said,
What's even crazier, just speaking on Billy Bulger, what's even crazier is the fact that after everything, while he's a senator, he still becomes I believe it's the chancellor. He was the chancellor at
university
of Massachusetts. So,
yeah.
I don't really understand that, but
Hey, America, God bless. Yeah, we have Dakota Johnson playing. I believe she's playing. Yeah, she plays the wife, John Connolly's wife. Kevin Bacon plays the police chief, Charles McGuire. Jesse Plemons. Yeah, Plemons? Is that his name? Jesse Plemons? He,
yeah, but Kevin Weeks. Yeah.
yeah, is he Meth Damon? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
thinking of?
that's Beth Damon.
I
Beth
call him
Damon.
Meth Damon from his short stint as, what's his face from Breaking Bad? I can't remember. That evil fuck. This movie has a huge supporting cast and a lot of characters. We got Corey Stoll, Peter Sarsgaard, David Harbour, Rory Cochrane as the rifleman, Flemmy. That was pretty cool.
I knew it was Rory Cochrane.
Yeah, Rory
Is it
Cochrane.
Cochrane or yeah?
Yeah, Cochrane. I'm an idiot. Of course it's Cochrane.
You know what's weird? I feel like when he's in CSI, like his talents are completely wasted.
Mm-hmm.
And then he does movies like this or A Scanner Darkly, where it's just like this guy has some absolutely fantastic acting chops. Like I don't understand
When
why
he
he's
wants
not,
to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's not in more films. It's insane to me. He's just fucking amazing in this.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. He plays basically Whitey's hitman of sorts, and he does some of the more dastardly deeds in the movie. And it's pretty cool. We have Julianne Nicholson as well, Adam Scott from Parks and Rec fame, of course, stopping by. Yeah, that's pretty much the majority of the cast. A lot of people backing up the main three guys, which are Johnny Depp, Joel Egerton's character, and to a lesser extent Benedict Cumberbatch, and how the relationship between these two brothers, these three guys, I guess, who all grew up in the same neighborhood, a couple blocks down.
Southie.
They grew up in Southie together, you know. Just one happened to land on the other side of the law, and they worked together to take down Whitey's enemies, which are basically the traditional Sicilian mafia, I think, or Italian mafia. I can't remember.
And for anybody that doesn't know the story, obviously, I mean,
It's all real.
Yeah, you should really just look up the actual situation first. But just to give you a little breakdown of what we're talking about here, John Connolly, who becomes an FBI special agent with the FBI, approaches Whitey Bulger about forming a kind of alliance because he's gotten the okay to go after the Italian mob in Boston. So since the Italian mob is also kind of Whitey's enemy, he decides to, hey, what's the harm in getting rid of them? It's not snitching because, you're not giving up anybody that you know, anybody that you deal with. It's just, getting rid of your enemy's business.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I don't understand, like I don't kind of like what the movie compared to the real life situation, is they don't really start right off the hop with saying that he didn't give them any information, but he did give them like little pieces of information at first before they started just going ahead and literally taking other informants'
information as is,
and putting it as his, rewriting it in the file.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish they would have explored that a little bit more, because that's why, if anyone's familiar with the actual trial, near the end of the trial, Kevin Weeks, when he was giving his testifying against Whitey Bulger, he starts saying that Whitey Bulger is the biggest snitch in the room, and this and that, and I'm pretty sure it ended with Whitey Bulger saying "fuck you," and Kevin Weeks says "fuck you too," and then Whitey Bulger, I think, has the last word, saying "go fuck yourself." So
Just like the movie.
dialogue, yeah, exactly. The dialogue in the film is absolutely spot on accurate. I'm assuming for how the conversations would have went. But
This is a hard R movie with a lot of maybe not R, but a lot of goddamn cursing and a lot of blood and shit that gangsters do, I guess. But yeah.
Anyways, after the alliance, just might as well finish off the little
Go ahead.
synopsis.
Yeah.
After the alliance, obviously things get out of hand with John Connolly basically turning a blind eye to the fact that Whitey Bulger's become the kingpin of Boston,
And he's playing the FBI like a fiddle.
just right like a fiddle.
And they let all of this happen. So.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously then shit hits the fan, and again, if you're familiar with Whitey Bulger, who he is, you know that he then became a fugitive for I think it was 16 years or something around that timeline, maybe less. He was also featured on the FBI's Top Most Wanted next to Osama bin Laden for a time. So
most wanted man in America for a long time. He just disappeared at the end of all this. But and the way he was caught again was crazy. It's not in the movie, but I recommend looking up. There's a good documentary on Netflix as well as the book, of course.
This is called Whitey, right?
I think it's just called Whitey, yeah. And this guy's story is pretty incredible, and then makes for an entertaining mod film.
Oh, he was a brilliant fucking criminal when it comes down to it. The way that he, like, I mean, obviously there's criminals that have had connections, I guarantee, in all sorts of different government agencies, but you're talking about a guy that not only had connections there, but that literally had to do nothing to get it. It came to him, and he played it at his advantage the entire time.
Yep, and he's just one more opportunity for him.
That's pure brilliance there.
Yeah, and as soon as they make the alliance, of course, there's some stipulations that Whitey can't. You can't just go around killing people. You can't just do anything you want.
He says no drugs too.
No drugs as well, and of course, Whitey was renowned for both trafficking drugs and killing people. And
pretty much his two fortes.
Yeah, and he didn't stop doing that, and not at all. He just laughed in the face of the FBI for a long time, and that's how he went from small-time gangster to leader of the entire Boston area, and him and his cronies, the Winter Hill Gang, they basically ran South Boston for a number of years. Yeah. All thanks to his bizarre relationship with John Connolly and the FBI. Yeah. So, what did you think of this movie, though? Aside from the crazy ass
gangster movies, or even just going off the performances. I thought it was a good movie. Like you said, I don't know if it was a great one as far as gangsters go, but I definitely thought it was good. Definitely one of the best, aside from The Departed and American Gangster, in the last 10 to 15 years. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely, because I remember you said before we went and seen it that it was you had heard that it was a little bit longer or dragged on, right? And I honestly didn't notice. I didn't feel like it was dragging on at all. I thought it did well. I do feel, as you know, some of the bigger named actors are kind of completely lost in the film, just
it is a busy story.
Yeah, like Kevin Bacon, I don't really think was necessary to kind of play that role. Mm-hmm. Same with what's his name, Sarsgaard, Peter Sarsgaard. Mm-hmm. Well, he did a great job at it. Don't get me wrong.
That was a really cool role.
I feel like it was a waste of his talent, because he's a very talented actor, and I mean, I feel like he should have been kept in it a little bit longer, because they didn't really include the fact that. That's part of how they got caught in the first place was, Halloran's his name Halloran? Mm-hmm. His murder, and what really led up to them initially shutting down on Whitey. So I wish they kind of did explore that more. And like I said, just a lot of the stuff that with this kid dying and all that stuff, I wish they went into his life a little bit more. And
I agree.
As you know, they did apparently cut some of the film where they had it on him on the run, and I believe it featured Sienna Miller as his girlfriend who he was living with while he was on the run. Again, I wish they had kept that in. I wouldn't have minded if it was longer. I mean, I remember like Goodfellas, Casino, I never gave a shit how long those were.
Yeah.
So, want to make it great, in my opinion, you have to go back to that.
I agree with that. And I was kind of wrong about hearing it was long, because it is only 2 hours. That's more or less a normal film. It just seemed, like it could have been spread out a little bit more. I thought the pacing seemed a little rushed, but still, there's still some great little scenes that are throwback to like Scorsese stuff. Just little conversations between Whitey and especially around the dinner table, with that steak conversation, stuff like that. Those are
with the hooker. With the hooker?
Him with the hooker awesome. Is, those are throwbacks to, like, Scorsese's brilliant dialogue and stuff like that. And I still appreciated that they threw a little bit of that in. It's definitely less funny and, charismatic, if you will, as something like The Departed or what have you, which still had some black humor in it. This is a more serious take, but I think...
I'm tired for fucking my father.
Yeah, stuff like that, right? That's black humor that Scorsese puts in all of his films, regardless of whether you're talking about killers or drug dealers. Which Whitey was both, actually. But I have to say the majority of the film rides solely on Johnny Depp's back here. And
it definitely rides on performances heavily.
It relies on performances, period, I think, over, like, the story. You won't come out of it saying, oh, that was a really clever story. because it's a traditional gangster arc, a rise and fall. But you will come out of it saying, "God damn, Johnny Depp was scary." He looked into my soul, and I looked into his eyes, and I just saw nothing. He's great in this movie, and I think it is, it's enjoyable because of his performance. He hasn't been a villain in a long time, and he hasn't done a role like this in a long time, and it's very cool. I enjoyed his performance a lot.
Yeah, see, and I agree with you on the same way. The only critique I would have is the fact that I thought his makeup was a little much. Hey, Whitey Bulger didn't really look like that fucking weird, and
not overly, no.
And the way that they have the sorry, excuse me, the way that they have the contacts in and stuff. To me, it just seems. It still looks like it's almost Tim Burton-ish, like the way that he does his makeups in all of Tim Burton's movies. It honestly that's the first thing I thought.
Yeah, you can't help with that after you're looking at Johnny Depp, because of how many times he's been make-upped for a fucking stupid ass Tim Burton role. Not all of them are bad. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are. And yeah, maybe the makeup was a little much, because they age him up a little bit. They ugly up his teeth to give him these.
I like the teeth. It's the eyes.
The eyes, yeah.
That really bugged me. I think that was like the part that really threw me off. They just seemed really out of place as far as
once you're
natural. It didn't look natural. You know what I mean?
It was effective at first, and then some of the close-ups, you're like, no, wow, he looks really creepy. He looks like fucking Nosferatu or something like that. He's just pale, and he's I know it's a tactic to make him look more menacing, and it works, because when he lays down the law, everyone in the room,
definitely scary as
everyone
shit.
in the room shuts the fuck up, because they know how brutal he is. And there's scenes of him punching people to death, like beating a guy with a wrench in that one scene. Yeah, he does some scary shit, and it plays well on the fact that you think he's like a charismatic kind of leader, and then as the story goes on, it turns out he's actually a monster. And John Connolly, his FBI partner, is actually a bit of a douchebag himself, and doesn't really know what he's doing, and the whole thing just kind of falls apart as these stories go. But as it goes on, you really see how crazy Whitey Bulger actually was.
And the shit he got away with. I mean, fuck, he's gunning people down in broad daylight.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Killed a guy in a parking lot himself, by the way. Didn't get a hit, man. He did some crazy ass Miami cocaine cowboy shit, but it was in the Southie Bronx, or the Southie Boston Bronx. Yeah, it's a crazy tale, and I think he carries it well. I was legit scared of him, and there's some really like almost hard to watch scenes, especially when he chokes that hooker to death. Oh my god!
It's because the scene before, that's where the writing is extremely clever to me. I will give it that. In scenes like that, the way that they go from that sort of showing that this guy is clearly a little bit deranged, and the fact that the way that he treats people, how people would be accepting of him and think that, oh no, he's not that bad. He's an alright guy. I met Whitey. That type of shit. I like how they do kind of play into that, in the way that they do that right before, he turns.
He does something awful, like choke a hooker to death with his own hands.
The line he's like, what he's telling her before that, when he's talking about, he's like, oh, we'll go bring some furniture, and and then she's like, what she says, she's like, oh,
no one's ever done something this nice for me. He's like, oh, sweetie, you're breaking my heart, and then just chokes her.
Just fucking strangles her
to death, and they don't cut either. So they pan away, but they don't cut, and you hear some really awful shit. And yeah, it's very effective to see Whitey portrayed as this kind of psychopath, because he is indeed a psychopath. But he's still, his sense of loyalty and especially loyalty to his neighborhood. He ended up getting away with a lot with his almost Robin Hood like mentality. Not quite Robin Hood, but he was always nice to people. He helped kids. He helped John when he was a kid. That was a big.
I was
part
just
of
about
the
to
story.
say, who else got fucking compared to Robin Hood? Pablo Escobar.
Sure did. He only Pablo murdered everybody and gave to, well, mostly himself, but mainly the murder part. That was his favorite. But yeah. You want to talk about John Connolly a little bit? Joel Edgerton's performance?
Absolutely fantastic. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a nod for Best Supporting Actor at least. He does a
Hmm.
fantastic job from beginning to end, especially the transition in his character once the relationship starts with Whitey Bulger. You could tell he's a little more nervous, a little more kind of abrasive at the beginning in his sort of in the character's role,
And
and
then he
then
realizes he
he
can get
starts
away with.
transitioning basically into a
Yeah.
gangster himself. He just becomes one of them.
And he does. They worked. They they even mention it
His jail
several.
sentence fucking proves it. I mean,
Yeah,
the
they
guy's an
mention it
accomplice to
several
murder.
times. Like, here's this dinner table with Whitey Bulger, acclaimed criminal, John Connolly, FBI agent, and his brother, who is a state senator. And you're like, look at how fucked up this relationship is, and they're all working together for everyone's greater benefit. And this is, of course, who Matt Damon's character from The Departed was based on, and whatnot. But I love this performance by Joel. It's fucking. I think it's my favorite performance I've ever seen him do, and I
Yeah,
haven't
I have
seen.
yet to see The Gift.
Yeah, I haven't
I've
seen
yet
The
to see
Gift either, and he's been in a few things I've seen.
I've heard nothing but great
Zero
things.
Dark 30 and Great Gatsby were both fine, and he was in both of those. But
Great Gatsby was kind of but that's not his or Leo's or Tobey Maguire's fault. Probably one of the best Tobey Maguire movies I've ever seen.
hmm it's that movie was
Or sorry,
that's a
Tobey
problem.
Maguire performances.
I love this performance though, and he nails the Boston accent. I'm not sure where he's
Oh, he does a fantastic job. He does almost a
actually
better job
where.
than Ben Affleck, who's from there.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm not sure where he's from. Oh, he's from fucking South Wales, Australia. Okay.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
So the the foreign guys are really nailing this accent.
Yeah, no kidding. I was gonna say
Look out!
all three Irish brothers in this movie are played by fucking non-Irish people. But that's all right. Yeah, both him and Cumberbatch nailed the Boston accent, which is important to get right with a Boston film, I think. And pretty much everyone nails it here, especially Cumberbatch. Oh my god. And who did you say didn't do a great job?
Corey Stoll.
Yeah, Corey Stoll's character.
It's not that he
Yeah.
doesn't do a great job. I just think compared to everybody else, it's not. It's not the same. But
And the Corey Stoll
he
is
does a great job in his role. It's
Yeah.
just he doesn't do it. And I love him in The Strain.
I think he's a good up and coming actor for sure. Ever since I saw him on House of Cards, I'm like, oh,
He was awesome.
should be one to watch, and of course he is.
And his Yellow Jacket.
And his Yellow Jacket, yeah. So he's doing well, and he comes in for another small role in this movie. But still, I'm glad to see they gave good people these smaller roles, because that goes a long way in movies like this. I think, yeah. And those are the main performances here, and I think this film like rides pretty solely on the performances, and it does not disappoint when it comes to acting.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And like I said, I mean, even like Rory Cochrane blew me away. I think again, he's one of the best in the movie, playing Stevie Fleming. And it's not the fact that he does anything, that kind of stands out. It's the subtlety of how he performs. Stevie Fleming's kind of quiet but sadistic nature. And the conversation with I don't remember the partner's name. I feel like it's Morris, something along those lines.
Yeah, John Morris.
Yeah, John Morris. So when he's having the conversation at the table, and he says to him, "Oh, what's the matter, Stevie? Yada yada," and he says, "What, you don't like people not talking?" Like that part, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just breaking your balls." He's like, "If I were you, I wouldn't."
Yeah.
That's Rory
I
Cochrane.
think he's who
awesome.
I think Frenchie from The Departed was based on him, if I'm not mistaken. But well, of course. But I liked his performance a lot too, and I like the difference.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Probably.
I like the before and almost like a before and after when they're being interrogated and the story's kind of being told through the interrogations, if you will. Like
And if I'm not
afterwards, he
mistaken-
looks rough.
if I'm not mistaken, which they don't explore in the movie at all, I'm pretty sure in real life the story, when John Connolly says to the guy, who are the other informants? He's trying to get the information out of him, says who are the other informants. He says, I can't tell you. I'm pretty sure in real life one of those informants was actually Stevie Fleming.
Yeah, I believe it.
Pretty sure that's what it was. Unless maybe that's what they're saying is that's why they're having these interviews, and that's part of that investigation. So that could be what's going on, and that's how they're saying it. But I feel like they weren't relating it to the audience enough, as opposed to what actually happened. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. That's my only real problem with this movie is the storyline is paced kind of badly, and it doesn't take a lot of time to explain how people get from where they are to the interrogation afterwards, except for, of course, the the ending panels where it explains how they all came to this part where, got caught, flipped, pretty much all of his men got caught and flipped, and that's how his crazy story came to be. Yes. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know if it'll go down in the greats of gangster films, but it'll go down for, like, Depp will go down as, like, with the best gangster roles I've ever seen. That's for sure.
Easily. And again, the same with the supporting guys. It's definitely one of the best ensemble.
Yeah, there's a good way
gangster
to put
movies.
it.
Better than Untouchables as far as, like, the ensemble of it.
Yes,
actually,
definitely.
to be perfectly honest, Untouchables is one of the most overrated movies in my opinion. But
it has not aged well.
That's neither here nor there. But yeah, like you said, I don't think it'll go down as one of the greats, but I really do kind of hope that it at least gains a bit of a following while it's in the theater, because it's highly entertaining and it's definitely refreshing compared to things like Gangster Squad. So I would definitely suggest people see it. And I mean, as far as what we would overall give it overall, I would definitely say in terms of the pacing is the only real issue that I kind of had with the story and the lack of depth. I wish they went into a little bit more into the characters. That's my only complaint. So I think I would go ahead and give it a 8 out of 10.
Right on. I was gonna give it a 7.5 myself, an enthusiastic 7.5. Plot issue or not plot, pacing issues are my only real problem. The performances though and how they come together is very good.
That's what knocked it up that half bump for me.
It's worth seeing just for Johnny Depp's performance alone, I would say, just because you want to see him do something different than Charlie and the Jack Factory, fucking Jack Sparrow or whatever. This is about as different as you can get, and it's really nice to know that Johnny can still do this shit, because he is a great actor. He just has had more or less a decade of uninteresting work. No offense, Johnny, but I don't know.
Like this in Public Enemies, it's not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, I heard this compared to Public Enemies. I'm like, no, this is a better film than Public Enemies.
Far
sure.
better.
Public Enemies
just his portrayal of Bulger compared to his portrayal of Dillinger.
Dillinger, yeah, exactly. Not out of the park, because he is like becoming a different character. He's not just playing like various versions of Johnny Depp like he would in maybe Johnny Brasco or what have you.
Don't you dare diss as Donnie Brasco. He does a fantastic job in Donnie Brasco. I will defend that to the death.
No, I love that movie and I love that performance, but that's more. It's more of like just almost regular Johnny, where this is like he's going to a whole different place with this character.
Yeah, true.
And it's scary as fuck for the most part. So that would be my final rating. I'd give it a 7.5, 8 from you. Anything else you'd like to say about Black Mass? Not sure why it was called Black Mass. No allusion to that in the story.
Maybe something to do with some religion somehow.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's a Catholic neighborhood, but they didn't.
I'm just thinking of Black Sabbath, and they say witches at black masses. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But anyways, and I'm in Salem, Massachusetts, so. I don't know. Either way. Yeah, definitely a great movie. It's fresh out in theaters, just came out last Friday?
I believe so, yeah. So if you're looking for something new, I would put my money on this. I still haven't seen The Martian or a few other okay-looking things, but this is definitely it's an actor's film, so if that sounds good to you, then you should definitely check this out. I'm sure it will. Might even come up again come Oscar time for at least a performance role or two. We'll see. We'll see. That's going to wrap it up. My name has been The Habitual Pixel, my co-host, Big Nasty Productions. And we are the Movieverse Podcast. And join us next time for, we got a few things coming. Narcos, we're going to do Straight Outta Compton, the Entourage film. So stay tuned for lots of reviews. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.